How many coaches have been fired in the NFL?
10. Yeah.
I'm not going to get started with that situation. I'm not going to get started with that situation.
My house.
Yeah, I'm not going to get
The house in crime, dude.
Make sure you ain't got nothing, make sure you ain't got nothing right here.
We have proof.
That's what I'm talking about, baby.
It's a hockey jersey. I still.
Let's get to the Atlanta Falcons, who have hired Kevin Stefanski. This one's interesting. The Kevin Stefanski sweepstakes was pretty bountiful. He interviewed with a bunch of teams. This is one of those, I bet you this works out better than what you had before things. He was a multi-time coach of the year with awful ownership in Cleveland with the Haslams. He gets fired, deservedly so possibly there, because they've been so bad the last couple of years. Didn't have a problem with the decision, but it doesn't mean he's not a good head coach. Same with Harbaugh, right? So now you get to go somewhere else and start over new. He goes to Atlanta.
If you thought you'd seen it all, think again. Tonight, the NFL didn't just hire a coach. It lit a match. Breaking. Deion Sanders erupts as the Falcons hand Kevin Stefanski the keys, and one sentence set the league on fire. You walked into MY House. This is Spill News, where secrets explode before your eyes. Deion Sanders, Kevin Stefanski, Atlanta, Cleveland, names colliding, egos bruised, doors slammed behind closed offices. The internet couldn't believe it, and you won't either. Was this loyalty ignored? Was legacy disrespected? Or is this the quiet warning before something much bigger detonates? Because here's the question nobody wants to answer. If you were in this position, same betrayal, same threat, same spotlight, what would you do? Stay silent? Or remind everyone who built the house in the first place? Sources whisper about tense calls, uncomfortable meetings, and a hiring process that left scars. Fans are split. Insiders are nervous. And Prime? He said almost nothing, which somehow said everything. Bro said too much, and they got him. One fan posted. Another wrote, that line wasn't for Atlanta, it was for the whole league. So, buckle up, we're breaking it all. The moment didn't look explosive at first. No shouting, no table pounding, just a sentence. Dropped casually, almost politely, and that's what made it dangerous. When Deion Sanders was asked about the Atlanta Falcons' new head coach, he smiled, paused, and said he wasn't going to get started on that situation. Then he added 3 words that landed heavier than a rant ever could. My house. In today's NFL, silence is strategy, and restraint is rarely accidental. This wasn't a meltdown. This was a signal, a reminder. And for anyone who understands how power really moves in professional football, it felt like the opening note of something much bigger than a coaching hire. Atlanta didn't just announce a name.
Atlanta is peed off, ladies and gentlemen. Atlanta is very upset that Stefanski got the job in their home city. And I've been seeing stuff all day with people talking about it, but like I said, make a video about it, so let's just talk about it. Browns offense coordinator Tommy Rees is expected to join Stefanski in the same role in Atlanta. Cool, whatever.
They reopened a history that never really closed. And Prime knew exactly what he was doing by saying less instead of more. To understand why those words shook the league, you have to rewind to before press conferences and hashtags. Back to legacy. Deion Sanders isn't just associated with Atlanta. He is Atlanta football mythology. Drafted by the Falcons in the late 80s, he didn't simply play there. He defined an era. He brought swagger to a franchise still searching for identity. Turned home games into events and made Atlanta a destination instead of an afterthought. That's why the phrase "my house" still echoes. It's not about ownership in a legal sense. It's about cultural ownership, memory, influence, respect. When Deion says it, he's not talking about a stadium. He's talking about the ground he helped lay, the attention he brought, the relevance he forced into existence when nobody else could. Fast forward to now, and the Falcons announced Kevin Stefanski as their new head coach. On paper, it's a safe move. Experienced, award-winning, a coach who survived dysfunction in Cleveland and walked away with credibility intact, at least in the eyes of executives. League insiders frame it as stability, a reset, but fans didn't read it that way, and neither did Prime, because in Atlanta, this wasn't just a hire. It felt like a missed conversation, a door that never opened, a phone that never rang. And in a league where optics matter almost as much as wins, that absence spoke volumes. The early signs of tension were subtle. Social media reactions, podcast side comments, A noticeable split between analysts praising the hire and fans openly questioning it. Some called it recycled leadership. Others asked why a franchise desperate for energy chose familiarity instead of fire. In that noise, Deion's name kept surfacing, not because he campaigned for the job, but because people couldn't stop imagining the alternate reality. What if Atlanta had gone bold? What if legacy and future collided? Those questions linger in the background long before Prime ever opened his mouth. By the time he did, the audience was already primed to read between every line. Then came the moment on the morning show. Casual setting, friendly tone, a softball question, at least on the surface. How many coaches were fired this cycle? 10, someone answered. Deion nodded, smiled, and shut it down before it could spiral. I'm not going to get started with that situation. That sentence alone was loaded. It suggested awareness, restraint, and maybe frustration. But the real weight came after, when he added my house. That wasn't analysis. That wasn't commentary. That was a reminder of presence, of roots, of a connection that doesn't expire just because ownership changes or decades pass. From there, the narrative took on a life of its own. Clips spread. Fans slowed the video down, dissected facial expressions, debated tone. Was he joking? Was he irritated? Was he sending a message to Atlanta or to the entire league? Sports blogs ran with the moment, framing it as everything from playful nostalgia to a thinly veiled warning. And Prime, true to form, refused to clarify. No follow-up tweets. No interviews walking it back. Silence again. Calculated. Intentional. In today's media ecosystem, silence is content, and Deion knows that better than almost anyone. What makes this moment hit harder is timing. The NFL coaching carousel has been ruthless. 10 head coaches gone. Organizations scrambling. Power structures shifting. In that chaos, every decision feels amplified. Every omission intentional. Atlanta didn't just choose Stefanski. They chose a path that screamed conventional. And in doing so, they invited comparison to every bold move they didn't make. For a fan base hungry for relevance and direction, that sting was immediate. And when fans hurt, they look for symbols. Deion Sanders, whether he wants to be or not, remains one of the most powerful symbols Atlanta football has. Inside league circles, the conversation was quieter but sharper. Executives understand subtext. They know when a comment isn't meant for cameras, but for boardrooms. My house can be read as pride, but it can also be read as territory, as influence, as a reminder that some figures loom larger than any single hire. No one accused Deion of angling for the job publicly, but no one dismissed the idea entirely either. In the NFL, doors rarely close completely. They just wait for the right moment to open again. Meanwhile, Atlanta Falcons fans spiraled into debate. Some defended the hire, pointing to Stefanski's resume and the dysfunction he navigated elsewhere. Others saw it as another example of playing it safe while rivals took risks. Message boards filled with anger, hope, sarcasm, and conspiracy. Did Atlanta fear the spotlight Deion brings? Did they want control over charisma? Or was this simply business, stripped of sentiment and symbolism? No clear answer emerged, only louder questions. Through it all, Deion stayed quiet. No clarification, no denial, no escalation. That restraint is what turned a 3-word comment into a week-long storyline. Because when someone with his history and confidence chooses not to elaborate, it invites speculation. It invites interpretation. It invites drama. And drama, in this league, is currency. Every pause, every half-smile, every refusal to explain becomes fuel for the next conversation. By the end of the week, one thing was clear. This wasn't about Kevin Stefanski alone. It wasn't even strictly about Atlanta. It was about respect, legacy, and the unspoken politics of hiring in a league that pretends to be purely merit-based. Deion Sanders didn't accuse anyone of anything. He didn't claim betrayal. He didn't demand acknowledgement. He simply reminded everyone that some houses are built so strong, you feel them even when you're not invited inside. And as the dust settled on that single sentence, the league braced itself for whatever might come next, because the Real story was only just beginning, And what came next would push this quiet tension into a place even his enemies didn't expect. The silence didn't calm anything down. It made it worse. Because once Deion Sanders dropped that line and walked away, the vacuum filled instantly. Blogs started connecting dots. Anonymous accounts claimed inside knowledge. Group chats lit up with screenshots that may or may not have been real. And suddenly, what began as a standard coaching hire turned into a full-blown scandal narrative. The kind the NFL pretends doesn't exist but quietly thrives on. This wasn't just about who Atlanta hired. It was about who they didn't. And in that gap, stories grew teeth. Within hours, whispers started circulating that the Falcons' hiring process was messier than advertised. Not publicly, of course. Official statements painted it as smooth, professional, unanimous. But sources close to the situation told a different story. Allegedly, there were late-night debates in the front office, disagreements about direction. One camp pushing for stability and control, another arguing for star power and cultural reset. And while no one would put a name on record, the implication was obvious. Deion Sanders' name was in the room, even if he wasn't. That's where the fake leaks started doing numbers. Screenshots of supposed text messages between unnamed executives, a blurred email chain hinting at concerns about optics, a rumored comment about too much attention, not enough control, none of it verifiable, all of it perfectly believable in a league that spent decades balancing image with authority. Fans ate it up. They were scared of him. One viral tweet claimed, "You don't hire Prime unless you're ready to lose control of the narrative." Another joked, "Because nothing screams confidence like hiring the safest guy in the room." Then came the Cleveland angle, and that's when things really caught fire. Kevin Stefanski didn't arrive in Atlanta alone. He brought familiar faces, including offensive staff linked to his Cleveland tenure. Almost immediately, Cleveland media flipped from calm to chaotic. Headlines screamed uncertainty. Analysts speculated about a rebuild. Fans accused ownership of repeating the same cycle. And in that chaos, another rumor slipped into the bloodstream. Cleveland might be looking at Deion Sanders, not necessarily as a coach tomorrow, but as a possibility they couldn't ignore. That idea alone was enough to send the internet into a frenzy, because now Deion's My House comment wasn't just about Atlanta anymore. It became retroactive foreshadowing. People rewatched the clip with new eyes. Was he hinting at leverage? Was he reminding teams that he's not boxing to college football? Was he subtly telling the league that doors swing both ways? The speculation escalated, especially when anonymous league insiders started floating the idea that multiple franchises were monitoring Prime's next move. As the noise grew, so did the mythology. Fake DMs surfaced, allegedly between players reacting to the hire. One message claimed a Falcons veteran texted, "So we really doing this again?" Another suggested a Cleveland player celebrated Stefanski's exit with a single emoji. No one confirmed anything. No one denied it either. That ambiguity is where scandal thrives. It doesn't need proof. It needs momentum. And momentum was everywhere. Fan reactions added gasoline. Falcon supporters flooded comment sections with split opinions. Some defended the hire, calling Stefanski underrated and unfairly blamed for Cleveland's issues. Others went scorched earth. All those interviews to this, one post read, "We wanted a future, not a rerun." Meanwhile, Browns fans oscillated between relief and dread. Relief that a frustrating era might be over. Dread that the organization would, once again, fumble the next step. And hovering above all of it was Deion Sanders, saying nothing, doing nothing, and somehow controlling the entire conversation. The media leaned into the drama. Talk shows framed it as an ego clash. Was Deion insulted? Was Atlanta intimidated? Was Stefanski walking into a locker room already skeptical of him? Panelists argued over tone, legacy, and power dynamics. One analyst sarcastically remarked, "Because nothing says fresh start like inheriting someone else's shadow." Another countered that Prime was being read into too much. But even that dismissal fueled the fire, because denying significance doesn't erase it. It acknowledges it. Then the narrative took another turn. Shadur Sanders. Suddenly, this wasn't just about coaching hires. It was about the future of a quarterback projected to change a franchise, with Cleveland potentially resetting and Atlanta locking into a new direction. Speculation erupted about draft paths, influence, and back-channel conversations. Was Deion protecting his son's future by staying quiet? Was his comment a reminder that he's watching where the league is heading? The fake reports love this angle. Prime is playing chess. One blog claimed, everyone else is stuck on checkers. Leaked reports claimed Deion had privately expressed concerns about certain organizations. Others suggested he was impressed by some and wary of others. Again, no names, no proof, just enough vagueness to feel plausible. And because Deion refused to comment, every rumor felt like it could be true. That's the paradox of his brand. His silence doesn't shut down stories. It multiplies them. Behind the scenes, the Stefanski hire became symbolic. To critics, it represented the NFL's comfort with familiarity over transformation. To defenders, it was a rational move in an irrational cycle. But either way, it now carried baggage it never asked for. Stefanski hadn't said a word about Deion. He didn't need to. The narrative wrapped itself around him anyway. Every press appearance was analyzed for tension that might not exist. Every mention of Atlanta's culture was scrutinized for subtext. He was, willingly or not, walking into a storyline bigger than his playbook. As the days passed, new evidence kept emerging. A fake audio clip here, a misquoted interview there. Someone claimed a former player said Deion was disrespected. Another claimed an executive laughed it off. None of it consistent, all of it shared. That's how modern scandals work. They don't move in straight lines. They spiral. And once they spiral far enough, they create a truth adjacent to reality that's almost impossible to unwind. What made this phase so volatile was a collision of ego, legacy, and timing. Deion Sanders represents visibility. Kevin Stefanski represents structure. Atlanta represents a crossroads. Cleveland represents chaos. Put those elements together, and you don't get clarity. You get combustion. And just when it felt like the narrative couldn't stretch any further, another name started surfacing in the shadows. Another connection fans weren't ready for. Another layer that suggested the story wasn't done escalating. Because just when everyone thought the dust was settling, a new figure entered the conversation and everything shifted again. By the time the league tried to move on, the damage was already done. What started as a cryptic comment had turned into a slow-burning fallout that no press release could clean up. The aftermath didn't arrive with sirens or headlines screaming scandal. It crept in quietly, through tone changes, awkward pauses, and conversations that suddenly stopped happening. Teams denied everything. Insiders downplayed it. But anyone paying attention could feel the shift. Something had cracked, and once cracks form in the NFL's carefully polished surface, they spread. For Deion Sanders, the response was exactly what you'd expect. He didn't gloat. He didn't clarify. He didn't escalate. Instead, he leaned into silence and routine. Practice, recruiting, public appearances that never mentioned Atlanta or Cleveland. On the surface, it looked like discipline. Underneath, it felt like control. Because while the league debated his intentions, he was already past the conversation. That's always been Prime's advantage. He understands that attention doesn't need constant feeding. Sometimes it needs starvation, but that didn't stop the emotional toll from surfacing in other ways. Close observers noticed a change in how people talked about him. Less hypothetical, more cautious. Front offices that once dismissed the idea of Deion at the next level now spoke in softer tones. Not commitment, but curiosity. Not plans, but possibilities. And in the NFL, curiosity is the first step toward leverage. No one wanted to be the team caught publicly ignoring a figure with that much influence again. Meanwhile, Kevin Stefanski stepped into his new role under a microscope he never asked for. Every introductory press conference, answer was parsed for insecurity or confidence. Every mention of culture felt like a rebuttal to something unsaid. Stefanski tried to keep it football. Schemes, accountability, process, but the shadow followed him. Analysts wondered if he was inheriting a fan base already divided. Critics asked if he was a symbol of a league afraid of change. None of that was fair, but fairness doesn't drive narratives. Momentum does. In Atlanta, the emotional whiplash was real. Atlanta Falcons fans oscillated between resignation and rage. Some tried to talk themselves into optimism, posting threads about Stefanski's past successes and the benefits of stability. Others doubled down on disappointment, framing the hire as another chapter in a long history of missed opportunities. Stadium talk radio buzzed with the same question, asked a dozen different ways. Why does this always feel like settling? That frustration didn't need Deion to exist, but his comment gave it a voice. Cleveland's situation only deepened the unease. With familiar leadership gone, the franchise entered another uncertain chapter, and uncertainty breeds speculation. Who would lead them next? What direction would they take? Would they finally break the cycle or repeat it again? In that chaos, Deion's name surfaced repeatedly. Sometimes seriously, sometimes mockingly, but never dismissively. And that alone was telling. Even when no official interest exists, the fact that people keep asking the question means the answer matters. Hovering over all of this was Deion Sanders, and the quiet way his future became entangled in a storyline he didn't speak into. While the league obsessed over coaching hires, Deion was photographed overseas, smiling, relaxed, unbothered. Fashion events, interviews about life, not football. To some, it looked tone-deaf. To others, it looked strategic. A reminder that not everything revolves around NFL panic cycles. And yet, behind the scenes, everyone knew his name was part of the calculus. Draft boards, development plans, organizational fit. It was all being weighed, whether anyone admitted it or not. The emotional center of this fallout wasn't anger. It was distrust. Fans distrusting ownership. Players distrusting stability. Executives distrusting optics. And at the center of that distrust sat a 3-word comment that refused to fade. My house. It became shorthand for a broader frustration with how the league handles legacy, with how voices are valued or ignored depending on how much control they threaten. Deion never accused anyone of betrayal, but many fans felt it on his behalf anyway. As weeks passed, the story mutated. New angles emerged. Some claimed Deion had no interest in the NFL, and that the entire thing was media projection. Others insisted the silence was preparation. A few suggested the league was quietly closing ranks, ensuring no one else rocked the boat. Again, no proof, just pattern recognition fueled by history. Because the NFL has never been comfortable with figures it can't fully manage, and Deion Sanders has never fit neatly into anyone's box. The most revealing part of the aftermath was what didn't happen. There was no reconciliation tour, no joint interview, no friendly quote smoothing things over. The league prefers clean endings, and this story refused to provide one. It just lingered, in commentary, in jokes, in side glances during broadcasts, in the way Deion's name now carried a slightly different weight when mentioned alongside professional coaching jobs. For Stefanski, the challenge became proving that he could build something strong enough to drown out the noise. Wins would quiet critics. Losses would amplify them. For Atlanta, the challenge was trust, convincing a restless fan base that this wasn't another half measure. For Cleveland, the challenge was identity once again. And for Deion, the challenge was nothing at all. He'd already said what he needed to say. By the end of the cycle, there were no arrests, no resignations, no dramatic confrontations. Just a lingering sense that something important had been exposed. Not a secret deal or a leak tape, but a fault line. A reminder that legacy doesn't expire and that silence, when used correctly, can be louder than any press conference. Deion Sanders didn't vanish. He didn't retaliate. He didn't chase validation. He simply stepped back and let the league reveal itself. And maybe that's the most unsettling part of this entire saga. Not the hire, not the rumors, not the speculation, but the idea that one quiet sentence could shake so many foundations without ever needing to be explained. Because in the end, no one forgot what was said. No one forgot who said it. And while the league moved forward, the echo remained a reminder that some houses never really stop belonging to the people who built them, even when the lights are off and the doors are closed. And though the moment passed without fireworks, the secret stayed, waiting heavy and unresolved long after the cameras stopped rolling. And now it's on you. Because moments like this don't come with official explanations or neat endings. They come with questions that the league won't answer, and reactions that tell you more than any press release ever could. Deion Sanders didn't rant. He didn't accuse. He didn't explain. He just spoke 3 words, and somehow exposed an entire system that hates being exposed. So ask yourself this: was that line just nostalgia, or was it a warning? Was it pride in the city he helped build, or a reminder to the NFL that some legacies can't be erased with a hiring announcement? And what does this really say about how the league handles power, personality, and control when a figure like Coach Prime enters the conversation? Because if you believe this story ends with one coaching hire, you're missing the bigger picture. The fallout is still unfolding. Front offices are watching. Fans are remembering. And the next move, whether it comes from Atlanta, Cleveland, or somewhere nobody's looking yet, could flip this entire narrative on its head. Now we want to hear from you. Do you think Deion Sanders was sending a message with that "my house" comment? Was Atlanta wrong for playing safe? And should the NFL be worried about what happens if Prime ever decides to step fully into their world? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Debate it, argue it, break it down. Because the most dangerous stories aren't the ones with answers. They're the ones that force everyone to pick a side. If you want more deep dives like this, more moments the league tries to brush off, more power plays hidden in plain sight, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We're not done. Not even close. This story is far from over. And trust me, when the next chapter drops, you're going to want to be here